I'm just going to bring you forward here for just a few minutes. So basically, now you've been reflecting on the score and what it means to you. And as you can see in the assessment, you basically are looking at 5 different types of conversations. We have inspiring innovation, we have building systems to support innovation, assessing opportunities, creating champions, and then the very last one is how do you launch the innovation? And we can see that each one of them touches a particular aspect of the innovation discussion. And when I was delivering this program, somebody said, but wait a second, doesn't the conversation sometimes will touch all of them sometimes? And that's normal and that's natural. I think what we're doing here is that we're basically saying to you as a leader that when you think about the 5 different buckets, each one of them requires from you a particular skill. And then also you reflect on that, and then you also know that that means I need to create these skills among my team members, right? So in order for me to inspire innovation, I need to create the conditions and the culture for going in that direction. And as we were speaking earlier, we basically said, let's take the 3 top strategies for the company, where the company wants to go, and then when you're reflecting, you're basically trying to think, is there something that we can come up with that might make a shift? So when you think about innovation, people talk about different types. I mean, maybe what you're doing is an incremental innovation, and sometimes it's a step innovation. It's going to take you in a much different direction. And then here in the Silicon Valley, since we're close to it, people basically talk about disruptive innovation. Is there something that we can do that can completely change the game? Is there something that we could do that can become a game changer? So as a leader, you might be thinking, okay, is this something that I need to come up with? It might be the case. But part of the process of building the relationships, that there might be an opportunity for you, when you think about that time with you, you might start thinking there's somebody in the company that I need to go talk to just to brainstorm initially. Because it looks like there's a little bit of tension that you already are building up within you about a particular piece. Like in Christina's case, she said, we've been talking at them for a long time. I want us to talk with them for a change. And as a result of that, maybe those customers, plus Christina, plus somebody else, bringing that team together is a strategic skill. That you're basically saying, we need to come together, because I think in coming together, bringing our perspectives and our lens together, we may be able to bring up an idea that we can then take back to our teams and think about how do we actually execute, right? So this is really more about you yourself being part of that innovation. And then how do you actually then inspire it is by thinking about how do I essentially get it going, and I need to think about what kind. And maybe most of the time you'll actually find that you can end up, and if you remember Alex was basically using this word, you may end up basically saying that I'm going to have a mix, incremental process improvement, because there are some things that I'm not going to be able to disrupt in the very beginning. And then maybe some things would benefit from a step innovation, and maybe there are things that would benefit from me completely saying, let's redesign this thing from scratch. And if you remember, one of the articles basically said Andy Grove, the former Andy Grove, God bless his soul, at Intel, he basically said, let's use this philosophy of a revolving door, which basically means if we were to get out of the building and go out to the other sidewalk, and stand there, and then come back in the building as if we are completely new. We don't work for this company. This is the very first day to come here. Let's look with a fresh set of eyes. And that's why a lot of companies hire consultants, usually, because they just want somebody who is not from America to come and take a look at America, right? Who's not from Intel, to come into Intel and say, I wonder why you're doing it this way. And if you remember one of the articles, the guy kept saying, could you please tell me why? That is a big question they ask. Why are you doing it this way? And as we said, sometimes we're doing it because other people were doing it that way, right? So your role is to then not just ask, as we will see here, it's not just about asking what if. I actually like to position this more as what will happen when. What will happen when we actually create something that is different, that is new, that's just a totally new way of doing things. What would that mean for the business? And you're still bearing in mind the top strategies for the company, the top goals for the company, because at the very end, you still want to make sure that you align. You still want to make sure that it is a way we're aligning, because if I am the CEO, maybe I can come up with an idea that is a total shift. But from a vantage point, you're really mainly tracking to what you heard from them tell you. Maybe if they go off to an offsite and they come up with an idea that's completely going to be, in the secret lab, that's fine. But at least for us, what we need to do is we look at the top 1 to 3 strategies and essentially then make sure that a lot of what we're doing here is really to help drive this faster. Essentially, you want to make sure that you get to your destination sooner, because if you think about managing and leading, you'll see that one of the ways we translate this, we basically say managing is about today and yesterday. Leading is about tomorrow and into the future. So if I want to become a strategic leader, I need to be thinking, what is the future going to look like? And I need to be thinking more, if I'm here thinking about efficiency, I need to be thinking here more about effectiveness, which means if there is a different way of doing things that's going to get us there better, faster, and cheaper, that's what I want to do. Better is the key word for us as leaders, because here maybe I think about faster and cheaper, but better is a whole different story. It's a whole different story, because it's more about the outcome that's going to come out of it. Because somebody might say, hey, I'm going to do it this way faster, but is it going to be better? We haven't. And that's really where you as a leader, then you're always constantly thinking, how can I do things much more effectively? Right? That's really a big part of what this is all about. So as a result of you assessing yourself, now you think there's one here that will make a lot more difference for your business. And what we're going to do now is we're going to break into groups of 3, and we want you to basically say, for example, I'm going to say, this is the conversation I need to do much better at. There are a few pages in the workbook that I'm going to point out that are really more about how do I plan for that conversation. And then we're going to go into the conversation and we're going to change roles. So each one of us will get a chance to practice. And then one person in the group will be sitting as an observer just to give feedback to each of the individuals in that group to say, how well did we do in this simulation? Because right now it's going to be a simulation, right? We're just going to simulate how this conversation may happen in the room when you go back to the office, okay? And let's make sure that to that slide, that flip chart, we're going to add what innovation conversations do I need to have so that you make sure you give yourself a mental note on a weekly basis to be able to do this. Because again, I think if we don't do some of this, our leadership is going to look at us as not being strategic, because it looks like you're just taking care of business every day. It's the same mundane operational stuff. Whereas if you come up with a new idea with a point of view, that's interesting. Damon has been here for 90 days. He's never really come to the table with something like that. It's intriguing. You're doing something different. So we want to do this, and we want to do it on a regular basis, and I also want you to surprise them sometimes. Let 2 weeks go by without, so that again, you want to be unpredictable. Remember yesterday we said that? So there's a little bit of unpredictability that's needed, because otherwise they're going to basically then take it for granted. But what we want to do is really make sure that in order to get them to pay attention, we need an element of intrigue, right? That's really another element that I'm trying to make sure that, don't make it something that they think it's easy for you, too easy to the point that they take it for granted. Okay? So we're going to break now into groups of 3, and I think we have 3 there, we have 3 over here, we have 3 here. We only have a team of 2 here, and I'm going to join that team to round it out. Sounds good? Yeah? So let me point out to the pages in the workbook. You want to go to page 14 and page 15 to help you think about how to prepare. And then on each of the pages, 15, 16, 17, and so on, depending on which conversation you choose, it's going to give you some ideas for how to prepare for that conversation. So let's take maybe about 10 minutes, pick the conversation you want to focus on, look at the preparation ideas, and then we're going to get ready to actually practice. For example, if Christina wants to talk to somebody on her team and her name is Sandy, we're just going to simulate that conversation here. And then we're going to flip it to practice some more. And I will be sitting as an observer to give each one of them feedback at the end of the conversation. We want to do the same thing here and then in these two other groups. Sounds good? Yeah? It's a little bit more work. It's Friday, I know, but we'll finish soon. Okay? Awesome, guys. Thank you.